God says, my spirit lives in you. You are never without my presence, my power, or my peace. 2. God says, when you feel lost, remember I live in you. You carry my light wherever you go. 3. God says, I created you with intention. My spirit in you is no accident. You were made for more. God says, you are not alone. I have written your name on my heart and placed my spirit within you. 5. God says, my strength is not around you. It is inside you. Stand firm in that truth. 6. God says, I see what you're facing, and I've already equipped you for victory from within. 7. God says, you may feel weak, but my spirit in you is unshakable. 8. God says, I dwell in you. Don't search for me in the world when I live in your soul. 9. God says, you are a vessel of my love, my peace, and my purpose. Carry it boldly. 10. God says, you don't need to earn my spirit. I gave it to you freely, fully, and forever. 11. God says, my spirit guides you, not fear, not shame. Listen and walk confidently. 12. God says, you are my temple, sacred, strong, and full of my presence. 13. God says, when the world says you're not enough, I remind you, I live in you. 14. God says, I breathe new life into you daily. Don't give up when I'm still working. 15. God says, I never promised it would be easy, but I did promise I'd be with you, in you. 16. God says, you are chosen. I placed my spirit in you for such a time as this. 17. God says, I will give you the words when you feel speechless, because my spirit speaks through you. 18. God says, your identity is not in your mistakes, but in my spirit that lives in you. 19. God says, you are not what happened to you. You are what I am doing through you. 20. God says, even in silence, I am working deep within your spirit. 21. God says, rest, child. I am fighting for you, and my spirit is strengthening you. 22. God says, I've placed fire in your bones. Rise again and shine. 23. God says, you carry peace that passes understanding because my spirit lives in you. 24. God says, you are not lost. You are being led by my spirit step by step. 25. God says, the world may disappoint you, but I never will. I'm within you. 26. God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you, not even for a moment. 27. God says, my spirit in you is your compass, not your emotions, not the crowd. 28. God says, there is purpose in your pain, and my spirit will reveal it in time. 29. God says, you are not forgotten. Heaven knows your name. 30. God says, I'm doing something new in you. Don't cling to the old. 31. God says, don't let fear silence you. My spirit gives you courage. 32. God says, you are loved, not because of what you do, but because of who I am in you. 33. God says, my spirit is the fire that will burn away every lie spoken over you. 34. God says, you are strong because I am strong in you. 35. God says, I place dreams in your heart and power in your soul. Don't give up. 36. God says, the battle is not yours, it's mine, and I live in you. 37. God says, your weakness is the canvas for my strength. 38. God says, your voice matters because my spirit gives it life. 39. God says, stop doubting. You carry divine power within. 40. God says, I called you by name. You are mine. 41. God says, be still and let my spirit remind you of who you are. 42. God says, I will complete the good work I started in you. 43. God says, every closed door was my protection. Trust what's ahead. 44. God says, I'm the God of peace, and that peace lives inside you. 45. God says, my plans for you are better than anything you've imagined. 46. God says, I haven't changed my mind about you. 47. God says, I'm your strength when you feel like giving up. 48. God says, I'm using your scars to tell a story of hope. 49. God says, I never waste pain. Watch how I turn it into purpose. 50. God says, don't chase people. Chase me and everything else will align. 51. God says, when you can't see the way forward, trust the one who lives in you. 52. God says, you are my creation, handcrafted with purpose. 53, God says, nothing can separate you from my love, not even you. 54, God says, I'm the light that darkness cannot overcome. 55, God says, I'm doing something behind the scenes. Be patient, be still. 56, God says, I'm holding you even when you feel like falling apart. 50, God says, you are not behind, you are right on my schedule. 58, God says, I'll heal your heart in places you didn't know were broken. 59, God says, you are not disqualified. My grace makes all things new. 60, God says, the promise still stands. Hold on. 61, God says, your waiting is not wasting. I'm building you from the inside out. 62, God says, you are not too much. You are exactly what I created. 63, God says, I'm pouring peace into your restless soul. 64, God says, even your mess is part of the message I'm writing through you. 65, God says, you are seen, known, and deeply loved. 66, God says, my spirit doesn't make mistakes, and I don't regret creating you. 67, God says, you are not stuck. I'm preparing your next step. 68, God says, I'll carry you when you can't carry yourself. 69, God says, I chose you before the world knew your name. 70, God says, I'm with you in every chapter, even the hard ones. 71, God says, let go of what you can't control. I never lose control. 72, God says, you are marked by my love, not your failures. 73, God says, don't compare your journey. I've crafted your path uniquely. 74, God says, you are light in the darkness because I live in you. 75, God says, my spirit in you is greater than anything coming against you. 76, God says, I will make rivers in your desert and roads in your wilderness. 77, God says, stay faithful. I'm about to show you why you had to wait. 78, God says, nothing about your life is random. I'm the author of every line. 79, God says, my presence goes before you, and behind you, you're surrounded. 80, God says, there's a reason you survived. You have a purpose to fulfill.